But yeah, hey everybody, welcome to our Imagine Meetup for March 2021. If you have not met me yet, my name is Josh Ramirez, and I am a fourth year RTF major, radio, television, film here at UT Austin. A little about me, I am the Imagine Lab manager, and I've spent the past few years building out not only our physical lab on campus, but also the innovation initiative as a whole. So whether it's our monthly events or our research projects, everyone is welcome to connect with me and join the many opportunities here at the lab. I am all ears. You can message me on Discord and I'll drop my contact info at the end. But I do want to thank you for joining us online for this meetup. I know we're all living in some pretty unprecedented times right now in combination with midterms. It can be pretty rough. A lot is on our minds, but I appreciate you just sticking in and trying something new, especially if this is your first time. So our lab, like I was saying, it's actually physically open. We are taking some precautions. You can scan those codes to book an appointment. We have, like I said, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, but we have some new additions too. We recently just got a D-Box chair. It's like a haptic chair. And so we're experimenting with that. And it's all in the good fun of immersive storytelling. So if you're curious or you want to build something with this technology, you're welcome to book an appointment, and we are open weekly. You can check out what we're about, scanning those codes, but if you're curious about what you can try, you can look at the demo library, and I believe that's the one at the top, the black and white QR code. I can share those with you in a bit. And if this is your first meetup, I want you to know we're focusing on 3 different things: discover, demo, and discuss. So feel free to pop in any questions during the event on the chat on the left. You can throw up some emotes in the bottom right of your middle menu bar at the bottom, or simply dance around by pressing and holding Z when you're not chatting. And you can move in circles, put up a little heart. Here, I'll do it for fun. So you can let me know some love, just like doing so. All right. We'll get him back. We want to talk about our topic today: education meets extended reality. This is somewhat of a throwback topic. For our first Imagine meetup back in fall 2019, we were interested in exploring ways of using virtual reality and augmented reality in education. We had our fancy new equipment when the lab first opened. We were getting everything set up. But as the times have changed, we've recognized this goes further than just a headset, or more than just a smartphone camera. The topic of education can be broad, though. It can be training, it can be on our own, it can be in a classroom, or it can be in a museum. It could be even preschool, or it can be college. So we have a lot of different options here when it comes to XR, and it's going to get a little bit messy, but we're going to do our best to pull it apart, see where it's come from, see where it's going. And there's especially a new incentive to bringing immersive to the classroom. If you're wondering what's the purpose of this, well, especially as the classroom has moved online, this is a topic we are constantly engaged with at the lab. Some of y'all have already shared with me that Zoom is boring, or it can get pretty tiring being at your computer the whole day. So the fact that we can introduce XR, or virtual worlds, it changes everything, right? For most people, classrooms have not changed that much either. So when we go back to our lecture halls, whether that's Socratic style or in a giant hall at UT, much of educational innovation deals more with technique sometimes rather than implementing technology or isolating each. So we're excited to explore some of those exceptions to this to see where XR tech fits into the story. But what is XR? You're free to pop in some ideas in the chat. Out of curiosity, have y'all heard of XR before? I'll be checking out our Twitch stream as well. Yeah, and if you've hung out with us for some time already, you may have heard it before, right? Well, if you've been in the Imagine Lab, you certainly have. If you've been around Texas immersive students, you might as well have too. But if you've tried it at a demo at South by Southwest or career fair, you may have heard of it. It is very difficult to define sometimes, though. Take a look at this. Extended reality refers to all real and virtual combined environments and human-machine interactions generated by computer technology and wearables. Ah, that can be a mouthful. So to be honest, it can be so broad that general definitions don't cut it. There are distinct players though. You're going to hear a lot about AR, VR, and MR. Augmented reality is a visual technology. It produces a composite view by superimposing these images on a real-world view. So an example of this is the blockbuster Pokemon Go. I mean, everybody knows about Pokemon Go. That's the best example of AR for most people. They recently got into MR in a way. MR, mixed reality, is the bread and butter. It's the technology that merges real and virtual worlds. This is the newbie to the group, and it's usually the first thing some people see when they meet XR. So this can include gear such as the HoloLens, which we also have in the lab, and other augmented visual visors that put essentially holograms in your space. So it's really futuristic, really neat, and also very expensive. And then finally, you got VR. This is how I was introduced to immersive. VR, you probably have known about it by now. It's those big, bulky headsets you wear that is completely computer generated. Everything is three-dimensional, and it's all representations of what we see in the real world. So, not to make this even more complicated, but XR can include overlap across these technologies and can be beyond the visual too. So, what is extended reality? We see XR driving human creativity. We see it encouraging new ways of collaboration, and we see it shifting entire industries such as the medical and commercial fields. And honestly, XR isn't even all that new. In fact, I had some fun with this. Going back as far as 1881, you see innovations such as the theatrophone, which allowed users to listen to a live opera from a location up to a mile away from the theater. And it's interesting to imagine how this could predict the live stream phenomenon we're experiencing today, but it's also evident that we have always been interested in merging the physical and the digital. However, like VR and AR, XR can often struggle with accessibility. It's a very sensory technology, so it can be expensive to build experiences or acquire the gear you need to begin extending your own reality. We really need to give credit to the innovations in mobile processing and spatial recognition for the form of XR we have today. Now, the XR industry is expected to grow by 70% by 2024, and that's according to Nielsen from 2019. So this can be a game changer. But of course, we will talk about its limitations too, what needs to happen for XR to be responsive, remarkable, and responsible. So, like I said, it's expected to grow. Education was the second highest enterprise XR supply, with the highest enterprise XR demand at 33% in the first quarter of 2019. So while data has not been aggregated just yet for 2021, we suspect these numbers to have risen with the pandemic and stay-at-home lifestyles. So there are an endless amount of opportunities where XR can merge with education. So we have tried our best to break it up into a few categories to narrow down where education can benefit. With XR, we see stimulated interest in school. We see it merging with a physical object you can carry with you. So as always, as we continue, we encourage you to think about what other opportunities you see. We'd love to hear them, and every so often we collaborate on these ideas to build meaningful things here at the lab. For example, the D-Box chair. So curiosity is always welcome, and let's just hop into it. To start, let's talk about one form of XR we are most familiar with. We can all take a breather here. Online classrooms. The pandemic certainly has jump-started online learning, right? But it's also brought a renewed interest in virtual worlds. So whether it's the GatherTown world we're in already, or it's the spatial audio worlds of high fidelity down there in the bottom right, to give you an idea, we all began experimenting with our Zoom rooms and got tired pretty quickly here at the Imagine Lab. There's now a shift to a digital curriculum in a way that feels less lonely and more interactive with things like virtual avatars, custom spaces, and self-paced learning in a way that is much more exploratory than a standard classroom. But some things work best as a hybrid, right? You take the world of phygital products, as our very own Aaron Riley puts it, It blends senses and digital storytelling in a familiar package. For example, Edwin the Duck can be a child's bedtime companion, using embedded sensors to tell when the user is gently putting it to sleep, or visually showing when the user's putting it underwater during bath time. Imagine, too, swappable custom attributes that extend a narrative, as in the case with Aaron's Winklebeans. Perhaps your character could use some wings to help their friends out of a difficult situation, allowing the ability to attach a decision to a physical object could be a pinnacle in developmental exploration. So both of these examples are just too adorable to not ignore, by the way. I wanted to bring that up. Aaron, you got anything to add? Just horns up there. Bring some...
I'm loving it. I'm like, oh, look at that Winklebeans.
All right.
Just so you guys know, if the inspiration behind that, if you've ever been to Disney World and gone to Star Tours, have there any, can I see like hands raised, or do you guys know what I'm talking about, Star Tours? Okay. I went on it 11 times to deconstruct it and figure out the data-driven storytelling of it. And then I applied it to Winklebeans. Super fun, data-driven storytelling. There's so much potential there.
It really is, yeah. And we see this space expanding to location-based experiences too. So LBEs, they're kind of coming back, hopefully, with the pandemic. There's some here in Austin also, by the way. So take edutainment, for example. I can't really get my tongue on it, how to say it. Edutainment. Either way, it's a new way of building interactive learning that feels more like an arcade game than a sit-down and study type of test. This company, based out of South Korea, shares a fun way to incentivize learning with head-mounted displays, virtual worlds, and check this out, they even dispense rewards that the user, the child, could bring back to use with their character. So if they unlock something based off their math skills, it would literally dispense a physical product they can bring back their next time, and it gives them some ability, some power-up. So that would just blow my mind if I had that as a kid. I would have loved that. Probably would have spent too much time on it. Bear with me as my computer's lagging just a bit. But what if you could share knowledge in person at any time? Take a peek here at one of my favorites, Storyfile. We actually had the pleasure of hosting Storyfile recently for one of our TXI classes. So if you're interested in checking out more demos, head over to the keynote room after this. I can guide you there. But what this is, I'll just let them say it for themselves here.
My name's Amanda. Welcome to Storyfile.
So, to put it simply, Storyfile lets you ask questions to a digital person that has pre-recorded answers, hundreds of answers actually. So you can actually download this now from your iPhone and ask hundreds of questions with tons of interesting people, from astronauts to Holocaust survivors. And you hear from their perspective important events in their lives. And you can get very specific with the questions. You can talk about their experiences on a certain day or over a long period of time. I would encourage you to have some fun with that. And the best part is the app actually allows anybody to create their own story file. So you can be eternalized to answer questions you think others might be curious about someday. This goes into a topic of some virtual beings that we'd love to chat with you about. Whew. Videos, it can be tricky. Check this out. Not everything has to be holograms or touchscreens though. XR does not have to include a full display. It can all be using a microcontroller that could be attached to almost anything. We have a couple of these in the lab with Makey. As long as you can complete a circuit, you can change how you perceive interaction with a computer. So as they show in this example, you can use Play-Doh to play Mario. You can draw with lead pencils your Pac-Man controller. There's a lot of fun things you could do with this. In fact, there's a website showing over 1,000 projects you could use Makey for. That's also in the lab. If you're curious about it, you could check that out. You can buy one for yourself. I think they're only like $50. But you can really program this to do practically anything as long as you complete the circuit. As Mary could tell you, we had some ULAs in 2019. We connected the Makey to each student, and you can actually play piano just by touching someone, just by touching their head or their arm. It's really weird. You can make an appointment and try that for yourself, by the way, if you're curious. So if I asked that a few months ago to make an appointment, visit us in the lab, I'm not sure how possible that would have been. Most of us being in quarantine, taking care of others, and focusing on staying in, some concepts in class have just become too difficult to experience. If you're like me, art and history museums will feel like a breath of fresh air when they reopen, but how can we continue to explore those options now? And aside from the pandemic, visualization data can be instrumental to sharing findings and research or simply allowing others to grasp an idea. So take dissecting a frog, for example. With objects such as the merge cube and a smartphone, users can grasp 3D topics such as climate change, physics, and of course biology, literally in the palms of their hand. It is fascinating what you can do with a small gray foam cube. All you got to do is hold your smartphone over it, and it will project through the screen based off how you're holding it exactly. So perhaps students are also struggling with understanding the solar system. Well, they could put this cube on the table and use a smartphone to get up close to Saturn's rings. I think it's a really cool game changer that I wish we implemented more. Unfortunately, you do need a smartphone, but the actual cube itself is really affordable. I agree with Aaron. AR has so much opportunity for location-based education. All right. Well, using augmented reality, here's another example of how impactful data visualization can be. You can ask some of the grad students last year, but I was using this app in one of our HoloLens in the lab during a meeting. And I remember sitting back thinking, wow, this is a big deal. I mean, seeing the spread of COVID on a literal global scale was not only detailed, but it was almost emotional. I mean, representing facts using XR might prove essential to educating the public. If only the limitation of apps or headgear wasn't a barrier, I think this would really would have struck a lot of people to see where COVID was hitting exactly. I haven't gotten a chance to see how this has updated though over time. Yeah, and you could essentially do this from a smartphone too. I think they just made this complicated with a HoloLens. All right. Well, with Google Earth providing a 3D map of the entire globe, we also now have the ability to virtual travel wherever we want. This is only really useful if you know where the cool stuff is, though, right? Well, Google Earth Voyager is a collection of guided virtual tours that Google has already curated that will take you to various places and provide you with additional context, like a real tour guide would. There are even interactive elements, like their tour guide built to show the importance of park conservation. It allows you to see national park borders before and after they were shrunk by the governments. So this kind of virtual experience is in its infancy and can be easily adapted into an immersive VR experience or a guided AR tour one day. And you could probably ask us about that with our program we're building. I totally forgot. The admissions program. We're building a virtual AR tour similar to this for UT. So if you're curious about that, definitely let Aaron and I know. Well, speaking of tours, XR is starting to pull learning outside of the classroom in many ways. I mean, take one of our favorite subjects in the lab, storytelling. The world of AR storybooks can add depth and sound to an otherwise ancient medium, breathing life into everything from a child's book to a medical journal. I think that added context would help me a whole lot in math or physics, that's for sure. But some XR apps also use machine learning to recognize and teach you about the world around you, such as the plant scanner available on the App Store. There's plenty of these apps. That's why there's multiple names, PlantSnap, PlantAR, or Planter. Go ahead and explore, especially on the Apple App Store. There's a whole category dedicated to AR. And a lot of them are kind of like this. They can be a little bit gimmicky, but they're also really fun. I mean, you can immediately impress your botanist friends or simply figure out what that cool plant is in front of Chili's. So these AR apps can really range here. I mean, like Aaron said, you can go from graffiti, but you can also go to cooking. And the Be a Longhorn UT Admissions Project. All right. So, personally, I need to work on my dance technique. Dance Reality is another App Store favorite that allows you to practice step-by-step choreography in more than 50 styles. So, changing the tempo and recognizing my step pattern has never made me feel more confident using this app. Think and Do takes on a new meaning when the instructor is on demand and present in your space. So all I gotta say is that would have been useful on prom night. But let's get serious. XR is incredibly important to learning more about ourselves. I mean, mixed reality applications give us some scope into our health, and by now it might be easy to see how like things like visualization, exploration, and a physical awareness of who you are can influence the decisions we make, the passions we pursue, and of course the lessons we teach. So speaking about teaching, we have an alliance at UT. If you're not aware, the Extended Reality Alliance continues to grow exponentially here, and recent studies suggest learning is enhanced through mixed reality, virtual reality, and augmented reality use. As we have seen, XR offers new ways of exploring mental models and behavioral change. So the XR learning community hosts events throughout the school semester to bring together the community to keep an eye out and join us in on these meetups, these discussions regarding mental models, behavioral change, those things we've just brought up. If you're a little more curious, I'd like to show you this. I want to show off a quick promo.
Hi, I'm Erin Riley, and I'm Professor of Practice and the Director of the Imagine Lab at Moody College of Communication. I've been part of the group that's put together the Extended Reality Learning Community. So our goal was to cultivate an interdisciplinary learning environment of both faculty and graduate students who are interested in this space. Since starting the XR Learning Community, we have over 100 members participating in our Slack, and many of these members came and joined us for our XR Lunch and Learns we hosted in fall of 2020. During those Lunch and Learns, we brought in guest speakers who provided specific case studies on how extended reality is used in the classroom. In fact, we designed and distributed a UT-wide survey on the awareness, use, and interest of extended reality. And what we discovered was that about 75% of our students agree that XR applications would make learning more interesting. However, only 15% frequently use XR technologies within the context of learning and personal development. So currently, we're focused on developing design-based research workshops to identify future research opportunities for our members. The first one that we're going to do is on mental models. Many of us are interested in the cognition, learning, motivation, and memory of how extended reality is used in a learning environment. Others are interested in story and tech, the convergence of storytelling and different applications used in emerging technologies. There's also a rich area of expertise here at UT around SHEER, science, health, environmental, and risks. We all realize the importance of technology, especially with the rise of social distancing and working from home. And because of this focus on digital experience, we're finding that emerging technologies and extended reality are more important than ever. We appreciate the Faculty Innovation Center kickstarting the XR learning community and look forward to continuing our efforts as the XR Alliance flourishes here on campus. Thank you. Hi, I'm Erin Riley, and I'm Professor.
Oh, videos. There we go. Before we wrap this up, I want to encourage you to visit some booths around this demo room and explore a few virtual tours picked out by our staff and partners. So check out this, I'm sorry if I butchered the name, the Quincha, the museum tour, built by a past guest speaker at our VR/AR Tourism meetup, Carlos Ochoa. In this experience, walk up to the booth, press X, and explore the virtual museum built to showcase the fascinating archaeological history of an important Muslim Spanish town. It was recently designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, just as a fun fact. So if you want to see what a virtual museum looks like, you can actually do that right now. We could do it actually after the meetup. If you want something different, I'd recommend checking out our recent TXI project as part of a NASA hackathon, the Golden Voyage. This one's a little bit easier. We built this in around 24 hours, so it also shows how easily we can build these worlds out. You can even build them for your classes. The Golden Voyage was a virtual tour guiding you through the inspiration of what humanity has shared on a famous satellite's disk. So if you want to see more about that, yeah, we were definitely finalists too. Out of 2,000 submissions, we were in the top 40. That's a good point, Aaron. How can I forget that? Yeah, that was really neat. It was a really unique experience because that was our first time building in Mozilla Hubs too. So we're not just talking about GatherTown here. We're talking about things like Frame, what was used for the Cuenca Museum. We're talking about Mozilla Hubs. You know, these are all things you can use right now. All you need is your computer. It isn't even that difficult on your computer. Nothing to download. It should be pretty easy to get a hand of it. But if you got other questions, you can always come to us. But really my question to y'all is what comes next? You know, what stood out to you? What opportunities do you see? And at the Imagine Lab, we're always really wondering what comes next and what we can do to make sure we're working on something that is remarkable, responsive, and responsible here. So as always, we welcome curiosity, and if you'd like to come up, ask a question, you can actually walk behind the wooden bench up at the front. As long as you walk behind it, you're spotlighted, so everybody will be able to hear you, and everybody's not asking who's speaking, who's speaking. It makes life a little bit easier. But it's also just like real life. Come to the front of the class if you got a question. And with that, I'll just mention, by the way, our next meetup, Mental Health Meets Virtual Reality. We're actually going to have a guest speaker for this from Chocolate Milk and Donuts. They recently worked on experience at a mental institution. You're not going to want to miss that. It was really, really intense. But it gives you the perspective of someone who is experiencing schizophrenia. So I'd encourage you to come visit that. It is an interesting talk we're going to have with the CEO, Ricky Holm. And then finally, tomorrow, we're actually doing a TikTok workshop. If you haven't heard, we kind of blew up on TikTok the other day. We got over 200,000 views on one of our TikToks. It blew our mind. And it was fun looking at the comments, seeing what's Texas Immersive, right? Or what's the Imagine Lab? So we welcome you to join us on that TikTok. We're no experts here, but we're going to share what we've learned about this platform because we think it's still really unique. And in a way, it is extended reality, right? You see the top charts in music are directly affected by what's in TikTok. So what's causing these trends and what can we do to be unique creators on that platform? I think it's still an important space for reaching to the next generation. And by the way, I just wanted to share one other thing about visualization revolution. This was something shared by Zane, one of our Texas Immersive students. I thought this was really unique. Talking about virtual tours, this just adds to it. I can drop a link for y'all in our demo room. But since part of the Muslim faith is doing a pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina, in response to that, since we are unable to do so right now, they have built a virtual pilgrimage that trains you and teaches you what it would be like to take that path. So this was a real-world training simulation in a way that was incredibly detailed. You can ask questions in the experience, and the developers have added lots of other features, really just to show you how the Kaaba was built, how you would relive a battle, and teaching other users how to do a traditional Islamic prayer. So I thought this was a really unique take on XR, and it's just one of the many, right? So I do want to give a shout out to Zane on sharing that with me, and also every other student who helped me build this world out and build out this presentation. I really just want to open it up again to questions. I know we had a lot of pros and cons here when it comes to XR. But besides that, if y'all got any ideas on your mind, definitely just hop up to the front.